and Miracles, our dear friend Audrey Whitehead, reading from the beautiful book by Dr. John Mundy, PhD.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And hello, everybody. I am glad to be here. The last time we were together, we were reading about how we're all crazy and that there seems to be a tyrant living within our minds. Ralph Waldo Emerson expressed it as history is one damn thing after another. Oh, that's not what it is. Sorry, I'm trying to read. The world has not yet experienced any, this is from the court. The world has not yet experienced any comprehensive reawakening or rebirth. Such a rebirth is impossible as long as you continue to project or miscreate. Now we're all insane and we're talking about our stories in our head that are telling us something about what we see that isn't true. And we're going to carry on here on page 16 for a wholly new vision. Despite the bleakness of this picture, what if you knew beyond any doubt that there is a you that transcends this illusory world? What if you knew that, had that belief within you? What if you knew that you were not an ego plagued with problems of guilt and shame, fear and loss? What if you knew further that the world we live in is a thought, a consensus reality made up by an enormous group of other egos developed in fear over millions of years, not out of mean intent, but simply pieced together from our own collective desperation? What would you think of that? Well, I would probably, if before the course, thinking, ego play, I don't know. I don't think I would believe it. I would think it would be like a movie or The Matrix or like some of those movies. But I mean, gosh, I love the question because if you don't ask anything, you sure don't think of anything else. So back to John. Knowing all of this, but at the same time feeling trapped in a body in space and time, what if you were now presented with a map, a GPS system designed by God, GPS, God's plan for salvation, if you will. Love that. GPS, God's plan for salvation, which could show you the way out of this maze, this matrix of unawareness beyond the body and the ego to our real home, our real self, and a state of true being. What if you knew that the kingdom of God was within you? What if it was possible to know this, not at some future date, but right now? Coming to and then helping us hold this awareness is the task, the purpose, and the promise of the course. It is what every sincere student of the course will tell you they come to know and or know that they are coming to. And from text chapter 18, inward is sanity, insanity is outside. The center of a hurricane is perfectly quiet. On the outside, it is all chaos. When we are centered, we are peaceful. When we are angry and projecting, we are in a chaotic state. The course is clear that peace is not found in any form of external searching. Health is inner peace. The contemplative traditions of all our world's religions tell us of a place not of this world, a home not made with hands. Heaven is found in awakening, not in sleeping. When we awaken in the morning, we see that we never went anywhere. We were simply lying in our bed, dreaming. Awakening means that we were dreaming. Awakening is the realization that we never left heaven. Heaven is not coming someday. From the Manual of Teachers, heaven is here. There is nowhere else. Heaven is now. There is no other time. Wow, that's very different from the religion I grew up learning about, that I was here to, I don't know, I was just here to be punished for all the things I did wrong, really. And that if I didn't be good and repent, I would not get into heaven. That was what the religion that I was taught. That's my interpretation of it, Christianity. But more and more, yeah, what does that mean then for this life even? It's very bleak. Although there's bleakness still in thinking of the fact that, you know, what I see is a projection of something in my mind. Like, it's very confusing. So I guess I was confused, as maybe some are now, but I kept on with the course, and I'm glad I did, because it's well worth it. And I think it's great to say too that A Course in Miracles is not the end all be all. It's just something that came into my life at the perfect time, because that's the way the world works, regardless of whether I believe in A Course in Miracles or not. The world is going to work the way the world is going to work. And as this human being, I don't understand how it works. And I'm really okay with that now. Today is a good day. I've had a really great couple of days here. There have been some deep realizations and a lot of chaotic thinking clearing. So I'm very grateful, and let's go on here. The main ingredient in happiness is freedom. Freedom is always from something. Freedom from wants and needs, freedom from addictions, freedom from anxiety and fears, pains of the body, poverty, lack, and bills, relationships in which one feels trapped, political tyranny, and more. Living the course means seeking and finding freedom from something which paradoxically does not exist. It means freedom from an illusion, freedom from something we call an ego, something which contains no reality. Be not content with future happiness. It has no meaning, and it is not your just reward, for you have cause for freedom now. That was from chapter 26 of the text. And that's the end of that chapter. We're on chapter 3. This is it. Okay, I'm excited. An introduction to A Course in Miracles. Right from the introduction of the text, we're reading right from the first verse. This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened. Nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. Oh, never gets old, those words. Love them. This is it. I sometimes begin public lectures by telling a story about a soldier walking around in an army camp barrack. He goes over and picks up a piece of paper, at which point I will pick up a piece of paper. The soldier looks at the piece of paper and says, "That's not it." And he throws it down. I throw down the piece of paper. He then goes over and picks up another piece of paper. I then pick up another piece of paper. He says, "That's not it." And he throws that piece of paper down as well. His supervising officer is watching him and decides the guy is probably deranged, so he sends him off to the army psychologist for an examination. The psychologist examines him and decides that indeed he is deranged, so he writes out a letter of dismissal from the army. He hands it to him. The man takes the letter, looks at it, and says, "Oh, this is it." At which point I hold up a copy of A Course in Miracles and say, "This is it." I then quote the first line of the course. "This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary." And from the Manual of Teachers, M-1. I think M is Manual for Teachers, pretty sure. There is a course for every teacher of God. The form of the course varies greatly. So do the particular teaching aids involved. But the content of the course never changes. Its central theme is always God's Son is guiltless, and in his innocence is his salvation. This is a course. Courses in quotes in miracles. I do not know of any spiritual tradition that does not say that this world is a classroom. Once I see myself as a student in a classroom, I can then do what all responsible students do. Rather than ignoring my assignment, rather than sleeping or cutting classes, I begin to learn my lessons so that someday I can graduate and thus attain yet greater freedom. Ultimately, we are all here to learn, just like Jesus or any enlightened master, how to become a teacher of God, which means remembering our identity as a child of God. Miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Definitely so true. When I first started with the Course in Miracles and didn't get the miracles, like that shifted in perspective, I couldn't understand what I was doing wrong. And, that purification, it's just so necessary because there's so much going on in the mind. Like, it's not even realized. I couldn't realize it. I mean, I can't understand every thought I have or what it pertains to or how my mind has categorized. Like, is my mind using Trello or Dropbox or what's the filing system? I don't know what it is. So I can't. Audrey can't get in there and do any, maneuvering, because all I know are these worldly, what other things I think I know. I don't know this deeper happening? So we are all here to learn how to remove the blocks of awareness, of love presence. Seeking greater health in the body, we often begin by engaging in a process of purification. In the same way, the Course calls for a purification of mind. Our task is not to seek for love, truth, but to seek and find all the barriers we have built against love or truth. Living the Course thus means bringing the darkness to the light. It is not necessary to seek for what it is, It is not necessary to seek for what is true, but we do need to seek for what is false. Coming into this world, we sign up for a variety of courses which teach us exactly what we need to learn. These courses are referred to in the Course as our special relationship. A special relationship is a device for limiting ourselves to a body and for limiting others to their body. That's from the text, chapter 16. Our primary special relationship is the one we have with our own body. We love them, we hate them. We think the body is who we are. The body is a learning device for the mind. Its sole purpose is to facilitate learning. Lesson 97 from the workbook is an affirmation. I am spirit. And then it adds, no body can contain spirit, nor impose a limitation God created not. We also develop special relationships with other people, animals, and things of the world. We place expectations or anticipations onto them about the way the other person is supposed to behave in relationship to us. And if they don't behave that way, then we get to be upset. Special relationships are thus the classroom in which we practice forgiveness and thereby remember love. Oh boy, relationships. That's it. That's all there is here, because even if I think I don't have, even if I'm like, oh, I'm not in a relationship. Well, I'm sorry to tell you that's not true, because you always are in a relationship with yourself and with God, whether you realize that or not. It's just the truth. The truth is true, no matter if nobody believes in it. And a lie is still a lie, even if everybody believes in it. So it is a required course, and required now is in the quote. Helen Schuckman, the scribe for A Course in Miracles, was a teacher, and when she first heard, this is A Course in Miracles, she responded with, presumably, this course is an elective. And the answer was, no, it isn't. It's a definite requirement. When we go to school, we find a number of required courses along with electives. Certain classes are basic. Life is a required course. Like it or not, we wake up every morning in a classroom called life. There's no avoiding it. As much as we might like to pull the covers up over our heads and go back into unconsciousness, we cannot avoid the inevitable. We must get up and deal with the world. We must deal with our bodies. We must clean, clothe, and feed them. We must deal with each other. We must earn money and make our way through the world. Somewhere along the way, we hope to find some peace of mind. There are many classes within this curriculum. I may take a class where I must learn to overcome an addiction like alcohol, drugs, smoking, overeating, pills, and more. Here is a special relationship called money, and a variety of electives within this field. I might try gambling or shopping or overspending. Here is a class with a variety of special relationships called romance, marriage, and parenthood. Here's a class called career and work, and within it, I find a number of forgiveness opportunities with employers, supervisors, subordinates, and fellow employees. A lot of courses, hey? I've never even thought of it that way. I love how John's putting this in to the categories. It's funny, I just said, I don't know how it's all filed, and John's giving a nice little filing system here. Thank you. One sunny summer day, my wife, Dolores, and I went to a church picnic. I wanted to spend a little time with each person there, so I moved about, beginning each conversation the usual way by asking someone how they were doing. And then after the usual fine or okay, they would begin to tell a story. Everyone, it seemed, was going through something, some lesson, some physical ailment, some drama, some tragedy, somebody done me wrong song. Somebody done that. I won't do that. Everyone was trying to deal with his or her own insanity and that of the other people in their lives. In essence, each was telling me about their special relationship and what his or her classroom looked like. The time in which we take this course is voluntary. Free will does not mean that we can decide in advance what the curriculum will be. Indeed, the path for each of us is highly individualized. Free will does not mean, however, that we can elect what we want to take at a given time. Everything and nothing. The course has sometimes been referred to as the Christian Vedanta. Oh, darn it. It represents an absolute monistic or non-dualistic system. The course distinguishes between two worlds. One, heaven, is wholly real. The other, the ego's world, is wholly illusory. We think of these two worlds as the world of God, love, happiness, joy, truth, eternity, heaven, and the world of ego, fear, guilt, pain, death, falsehood, space-time, illusion. Heaven is reality, and the ego is a dream. That is, something which appears to be happening within time. The course is thus an all or nothing philosophy. Either perfect love exists or it does not. Either God exists or there is no God. Perfection is not a matter of degree. Either we are whole or we are broken. Either truth is true or there is no truth. Only perfect oneness exists, and what is all-encompassing cannot have an opposite. And from chapter 3, life and death, light and darkness, knowledge and perception are irreconcilable. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm not stumbling on my words today. Fellow student teacher Ken Mallory uses an illustration from the binary system of zeros and ones. 0 as the ego, 1 as the spirit. Ego is nothing, not a zilch. God, spirit, is everything. It is impossible that God could split himself off from himself. Oneness is oneness, not two-ness. God is in charge, always has been and will be. It may look as though we have temporary control of our own lives, but ultimately that is not true. And only what is ultimately true is true. The manual for teachers of the course begins by describing 10 characteristics of a teacher of God. Each characteristic builds on the one before it, and the first characteristic is trust. We are asked to place total trust in God and nothing else, because there is nothing else. This is our greatest happiness. Only in this way do we find inner peace. You have very little trust in me as yet, but it will increase as you turn more and more often to me instead of to your ego for guidance. That's from the text, chapter 4. And it's so true for me in my experience. That the more that I listen, and I can definitely know even the little subtlety now. Like the obvious ones of ego, I can get, I'm sure, as students, we all know what I mean by the obvious ones of, you know, when you're really feeling that feeling. But sometimes there's very slight, and I'm happy to report that those are being seen as well. And I'm just going to finish this chapter. It's not very long. It might take me over the noon mark here, but not by very much. As emissary of the English, political leader Oliver Cromwell, he lived from 1599 to 1659, was sent to France with his secretary to meet with King Louis the 14th? King Louis the 14th, that's my guess, an X and an I and a V, because I think that means 14th. King Louis on some important business. Having crossed the English Channel, they spent the night at a seaport town. Concerned that things might not go well in the forthcoming meeting, the emissary tossed and turned all night, unable to sleep. He finally awakened his secretary, who was sleeping soundly. The emissary asked the secretary how it was possible that he could be sleeping so soundly, while he, the emissary, could not sleep. Master, said the secretary, may I ask a question? Yes, replied the emissary. Did God rule the universe before we were born? Most assuredly he did, answered the emissary. And will he rule it after we're dead? Continued the secretary. Certainly he will, said the emissary. Then, master, why not let him rule the present? Nice. Let it be. And from text chapter 30, the new beginning now becomes the focus of the curriculum. The goal is clear, but now you need specific methods for attaining it. The speed by which it can be reached depends on this thing alone, on this one thing alone, your willingness to practice every step. Each one will help a little every time it is attempted. Each one will help a little every time it is attempted. And together, will these steps lead you from dreams of judgment to forgiving dreams and out of pain and fear. Awesomeness. And it's important for me to say that sometimes, even though I'm thinking I'm not able to practice or remember the course or do the course right, I remind myself that this is the ego talking, and that is simply not true. For me, it is only just recently that that this mind has quieted to a degree that I feel confident in hearing my right mind. And that's a beautiful space to be in. And I'm grateful for A Course in Miracles, for groups like ACIM Gather and Awakening Together, and just everybody, all of us walking the walk. We're all here, and we're gonna do this together. I feel like I'm excited about this lifetime of mine, that I'm gonna get to see something incredible. I really truly believe it. So thank you, everybody. I'm so happy that I got to be here today. Have an awesome week.
Thank you so much, Audrey Whitehead. Beautiful. And I'm so grateful you're reading this book. It's so great. I love it. So let me stop this and close the room. Once again, thank you, Audrey, and everyone who's been with us here today on ACIM Gather for A Course in Miracles.